Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ed Markey just released a draft of their Green New Deal legislation, and I haven't actually read the draft itself, but I have read numerous analyses about the draft, and thus far it seems as if, based on my, initial impressions, that it is everything we hoped it would be, and more, because it doesn't just still aim for the goal of moving to 100% clean renewable energy within 10 years, but it also really has this strong emphasis on justice. So that way the people who are currently in dirty jobs, who are producing greenhouse gas emissions, they're not going to somehow go deep into poverty. There's going to be this just transition to a clean job for them. There's going to be a safety net for them. And also this bill is aiming to make sure that the communities that are the most vulnerable due to climate change are going to have more protection, and I'm just really excited about it. So I'm going to play a clip from the press conference of her and Ed Markey introducing this bill, and then we're going to go over some of the details, and then I'll tell you what the response to it was from Democratic Party leadership.
Today is also the day that we choose to assert ourselves as a global leader in transitioning to 100% renewable energy and charting that path. That means that we are not going to peg ourselves by the lowest by the lowest standards of other nations. It doesn't mean that we're going to say, what about them? They're not doing it. What about them? They're not doing it. Why should we? We should do it because we should lead. We should do it because that is what this nation is about. We should do it because we are a country founded on ideals of a culture that is innovative, that cares for our brothers and sisters across this country. We should do it because we are an example to the world.
So I love this. I like that she's making it her signature issue. We have her pushing for a Green New Deal and Bernie Sanders pushing for Medicare for all, along with other issues. And this is phenomenal. We need someone basically to be a leader on this issue, and nobody has stepped up until now. And who better than someone who's a millennial, who is actually worried, like me, about how our lives will be when we are old, when we are Nancy Pelosi's age. We're going to be retiring into an apocalypse, basically. So we need someone who actually cares because it will personally affect them. So I think AOC is the best spokesperson for the Green New Deal. Now, getting to the details, we're not going to go too in depth here, but just for the most part, this is a framework for the Green New Deal. It's not actually a bill just yet, but thus far it aims for 100% renewable energy, as you all know, and a, quote, fair and just transition for workers currently employed in dirty jobs. It also commits to more public investments into infrastructure and clean industries. It aims to make existing buildings more energy efficient, and additionally, it emphasizes the need to mitigate harm that climate change will inevitably do to vulnerable communities and sets out a standard of universal access to clean water. Overall, it's phenomenal. Now, what you need to know is that this isn't just one proposal in and of itself. The Green New Deal is basically the amalgamation of numerous policy priorities. So I think that this is something that is bold, it's ambitious, and you're going to hear people say that, how can we pay for this? How realistic is this? In fact, Howard Schultz is already taking a dump on it.
I respect the new people who are coming into Congress. They got great ideas. I would just ask the question, how many of these ideas are realistic, and how many of these ideas can we actually pay for?
And regardless of what people who are older, who won't have to deal with climate change, say, this is something that's important. It's, it's equitable, and it's exactly what we need. And I think this is going to be another litmus test that 2020 Democrats are going to have to pass. Now, what would really help to push the Green New Deal along is if Democratic Party leadership actually helps AOC here. If Nancy Pelosi in the House helps push for this and whips up support for it. If Chuck Schumer does this in the Senate for Ed Markey's companion peace bill. But the problem is that the reception to the Green New Deal from at least Nancy Pelosi, we don't know what Chuck Schumer says at the time I'm recording this video, but what Nancy Pelosi says about this is basically really condescending, it's dismissive, and what she said made me irate. So here's how Nancy Pelosi responded to a Green New Deal when asked about it in an interview with Politico. Quote, "It will be one of several or maybe many suggestions that we receive. The Green Dream or whatever they call it, nobody knows what it is, but they're for it, right?" So that is probably the most condescending thing I've ever heard Nancy Pelosi say. And it's not too surprising because, as she puts it, she is nothing more than...
They call me a corporate pawn.
That's right, she's a corporate pawn. So of course she wouldn't be in support of an ambitious Green New Deal. Because she's old. She's like 100 years old. She will die long before any of the really substantial consequences of climate change come to fruition. I mean, we're already seeing it, but once Florida is underwater, she'll be long gone. And even if that weren't the case, if she was young, she's a multimillionaire, so she'd be protected. It doesn't matter. She'd be on Elysium in the event that movie were nonfiction. All the millionaires wouldn't have to worry because they'd be protected. It's vulnerable communities who really would suffer. But what does she say? Oh, the green dream or whatever they call it. Nobody knows what it is, but they're all for it. Now, the implication is that, oh, well, nobody knows what it is, but they're for it simply because, with AOC, there's this cult of personality, and if she says it's something that they like, then they're just going to go along with it and not actually know the details, not care about the substance, just follow her because she's a celebrity. Actually, no. Even if people can't recite to you specifics of the Green New Deal, Nancy, what we envision with the Green New Deal is a really bold plan to take on climate change and save the fucking planet. That's what people think of when they think of the Green New Deal, regardless if they can actually point out the specifics. So this is disgusting, and Nancy Pelosi is proving more and more that she's not an ally. She's an enemy. And think about this. This came out, when she said this about the Green New Deal, in the same week that one of her top aides assured health executives that Medicare for All is something they never have to worry about because she's not going to let that happen. That's what Nancy Pelosi is all about. But yet, these neoliberal Democratic Party loyalists think that she's amazing. They'll say, oh, well, she's like the best because she didn't cave to Donald Trump and got him to reopen the government. It wasn't the workers that got him to reopen the government. It was her. Simply because she did her job for once and didn't cave. Like, it irritates me. It irritates me that well-meaning liberals, not progressives, but liberals, they don't realize that Nancy Pelosi is not fucking progressive. See, she is a socially liberal Republican, and she's your enemy. She's your enemy. She's blocking progress. But nobody realizes this. They all think that she's an effective leader. Yeah, she's really effective. She's effective at stopping progressives. So it's so irritating to me that everyone just loves Nancy Pelosi in the mainstream media. But yet, they don't acknowledge the fact that she is not your friend. She is the enemy. And it drives me nuts. I don't know why it gets under my skin so much, but it's like they're trying to make her into something that she's not, like Hillary Clinton. Oh, yas, queen, she slayed. Yeah, she clapped back at Donald Trump on Twitter. Shut the fuck up. God, they're so stupid. To shit on a Green New Deal, Nancy, when it's basically the only thing that has given millennials like myself and Gen Z any hope whatsoever that maybe we won't fucking die due to climate change. I mean, it just shows that you're not an ally and you're a bad person. And what we need to do is get Nancy Pelosi out of power. She doesn't care about anything. When does Nancy Pelosi ever talk about ambitious policy proposals? She never talks about policy. Never. You never hear her talking about policy because Nancy Pelosi doesn't care about policy. Nancy Pelosi cares about Nancy Pelosi. That's all she cares about. As she clings to power for dear life, refusing to relinquish power to someone even just nominally more liberal than her, we're all suffering because this oligarch wants power. This multi-millionaire who lives in a mansion who doesn't know what you're dealing with wants more power. That's what we have to deal with. So this is why people who are wondering why I criticize Democrats so much, you see, the thing is that everyone knows that Republicans are morally reprehensible. They're fascist. They're off the fucking spectrum. But when it comes to Democrats, since they speak using flowery language and, unity rhetoric, a lot of people believe that they support what we all support, believe that they're liberal, but they're not liberal. They may be socially liberal, but economically speaking, they are killing us. They're killing Americans, and now, apparently, they want to kill humanity because she says this is just one of many suggestions that we receive. But are they actually this bold and ambitious? No, they're not. Hence why this one is so incredibly popular. But, I feel like, ranting and raving about Nancy Pelosi, it's going to fall on deaf ears because the only people who know that she is a terrible human being are progressives. But normal people, well-intentioned people who I respect, who are at least progressive when it comes to policy, they just don't understand that Nancy Pelosi isn't their friend.
Subscribe if you like this video, folks. Mike's tremendous, and he's doing a really, really good job. Many people are telling me about how wonderful the Humanist Report is. Bigly.